This is Mac OS Ken.
Another Apple target goes up, considering the iPhone FailuAir. And regulators gonna regulate, yo. It is Monday, the 27th of October, 2025. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by NordLayer. Secure your network, block threats to your business, and save 10% with code MacOSKen-10 at nordlayer.com/MacOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Raise high another price target. Midweek last week, Apple Insider ran a piece that had analysts at Wells Fargo boosting their ticker symbol AAPL target on iPhone strength and, get this, excitement around Apple Intelligence. No, you didn't hit your head, and no, it is not 2024. Apple Insider had the firm indicating that Apple's strong ecosystem and intuitive design makes the company well positioned to bring more AI features into its devices. The note proposes Apple could actually make AI mainstream. Pinch me. Paradoxically, Wells Fargo is expecting higher than expected quarterly results. Those, plus a surge of investor confidence in Apple's ability to maintain double-digit services revenue, plus AI, could apparently have Apple going gangbuster. The firm has an overweight rating on Apple shares. Analysts used last week's note to raise their price target on the shares from $245 to $290. Well, iPhone Air sucks. I mean, I don't think so, and probably a lot of other people don't think so, but that's the prevailing wisdom suddenly, and I use wisdom sarcastically. Apple 3.0 ran part of a post from Nikkei last week. To Nikkei's credit, they didn't say iPhone Air sucks. What they said was Apple is drastically cutting iPhone Air production orders, but boosting those for other iPhone 17 models, as strong overall sales of the lineup defy the ongoing tariff war and sluggish smartphone market, Nikkei Asia has learned. Nikkei goes on to say the adjustment to production plans reflects both the lukewarm reception of the iPhone Air in markets outside of China, as well as unexpectedly robust demand for the iPhone 17 and iPhone 17 Pro models. This echoes what we've heard over the past few weeks, that iPhone 17 sales are through the roof, selling better than any iPhone since the start of the pandemic, and that iPhone Air sales have lacked luster. Outside of China, that is, where they're selling like hotcakes or the Chinese equivalent. A secret so-and-so said to be high in Apple's supply chain was quoted by Nikkei as saying, Apple is the only client that has so far kept its production forecast from its latest series. Our other smartphone clients all face some decline in unit terms for 2025. But it's the negative that we'll remember, helped perhaps by the headline, Apple slashes iPhone Air production plans, boosts other 17 models. Seriously, the parts I could see seem fine. And yet Apple 3.0's Philip Elmer DeWitt ended his piece saying, Nikkei generally posts Apple production plan stories just before quarterly earnings. They're usually bad news and often misleading. Throwing fuel on the iPhone Air sucks fire was TF International analyst Ming-Chi Kuo. He popped onto the Heil site midweek last week, saying iPhone Air demand has fallen short of expectations, leading the supply chain to begin scaling back both shipments and production capacity. Most suppliers are expected to reduce capacity by more than 80% by the first quarter of 26, while some components with longer lead times are expected to be discontinued by the end of 2025. This indicates that the existing Pro series and standard models already cover the majority of high-end user demand well, leaving little room to carve out new market segments and positioning, as previous attempts with the Mini, Plus, and now Air models have all failed to gain traction. I know I did this a month or two ago when we were discussing the possibility of an iPhone foldable, but could we just stop with this, please? Not the part where Apple makes other phone factors. The part where people decide that any phone that doesn't sell as well as the best-selling iPhone sucks as an iPhone. Cult of Mac ran a piece that kind of got my goat, sailing in under the headline, iPhone Air Flop proves Apple should make fewer phone models. The piece says the iPhone Air is Apple's latest attempt to make a fourth iPhone variant. It's bombing, just like the previous similar efforts. It's clear that the vast majority of customers are happy with the other versions and have no interest in another type of iPhone, no matter what design it uses. Apple should drop the whole idea, according to Cult of Mac. Too many options are as bad as too few. 4 is too many. Also, will that author feel the same about a foldable iPhone next year or the anticipated all-glass iPhone the year after that? As an aside, I'm not sure the phone was helped by the pile of articles before it was even announced that said the camera's gonna suck, the battery's gonna suck, but buy it if you want to, I guess. It's possible this thing will pick up. It's possible Apple knew it wouldn't sell as well as the others. It's possible that Apple got what it needed to get out of it, learning how to make a thin thing that'll help it make other devices like the anticipated foldable, no matter what daring fireballs John Gruber thinks of that idea. Not knowing what Apple hoped to get out of it, we can't really deem it a failure. Some will, though, and they're free to do so. Expect Apple to field questions about all of the phones in its lineup, its plans for Apple Intelligence, and other areas of its business later this week. Apple's fourth quarter fiscal year 2025 earnings are set for this Thursday, the 30th of October. Numbers will drop via press release after the close of trading, 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific. Then at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, Apple execs will hop on the horn with financial analysts, bragging about what they want to discuss, dodging and parrying what they don't. You can listen live as that happens on Apple's site. It'll also be made available as a podcast soon after. And of course, I'll recap what I can on Friday. While iPhone and AI tend to be the points of focus for financial folk, the Mac could hear a bit of love come Thursday. Counterpoint Research issued a release last week that had the Mac outgrowing most of a strong PC market. Strength in that space has been driven largely by Windows 10 reaching end of support. Global PC shipments rose 8.1% year-on-year in the September quarter, according to Counterpoint. And yet fourth place Apple trounced all over that 8%, notching growth of 14.9%. The firm says that was thanks to popular new MacBook models and enterprise adoption. As I say, Apple outgrew most of the PC market, though not all of it. Running down the top 5, shipments for first place Lenovo were up 17%. HP was second with shipments up 10%. Third place Dell saw shipments drop 1%. Fourth place Apple saw shipments up 15%. Fifth place Asus was up 14%. And the blob O Others saw shipments drop about 3%. Staying on the manufacturing tip, Apple is hit with its private cloud compute servers. Made in the USA under the company's plan to invest $600 billion in U.S. manufacturing over the next 5 years, A piece from Apple Must had Apple CEO Tim Cook hitting the Heil site last week, saying Apple's American-made advanced servers are now shipping from our new Houston facility to Apple data centers. These servers will help power private cloud compute and Apple Intelligence. I don't know that Apple said publicly when the servers were expected to ship. Now that they've started shipping, though, Apple is fine saying they're doing so ahead of schedule. Apple Must had the company's COO, Sabi Khan, saying, "These servers will be installed in our data centers and play a key role in powering Apple Intelligence and private cloud compute. Our teams have done an incredible job accelerating work to get the new Houston factory up and running ahead of schedule, and we plan to continue expanding the facility to increase production next year." More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, NordLayer, a toggle-ready network security platform built for today's business. You probably know Nord for its consumer VPN. Built for business, NordLayer does that and so much more, combining VPN, access control, and threat protection in one easy-to-use platform. No hardware, no huge setup, just secure connection and full control in no time. Of course, no time doesn't mean no support. NordLayer includes step-by-step onboarding and support available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Got solutions working already? That's cool. NordLayer is a layer that can work with your existing setup. Of course, businesses change, and NordLayer can change with yours, letting you add users, features, or servers in just a few clicks. From a few people to 50 plus, NordLayer has various plans and pricing options for you. We'll talk specific and really interesting features later this week, but don't wait for that. Get up to 22% off NordLayer yearly plans, plus 10% on top with coupon code MacOSKen-10 at nordlayer.com/MacOSKen. Try it risk-free with their 14-day money-back guarantee. Keep your workers working safely and guard against outside threats with NordLayer. Get up to 22% off yearly plans plus 10% off with coupon code MacOSKen-10 at nordlayer.com/MacOSKen. The middle of last week was not great for Apple nor Google in the UK. A piece from TechCrunch says the two tech giants were designated as having strategic market status in their respective mobile platforms by the UK's Competition and Markets Authority. Sounds like this is analogous to gatekeeper status under the EU's Digital Markets Act. TechCrunch says the new designation, which affects the company's operating systems, app stores, browsers, and browser engines, will enable the regulator to take targeted actions to enhance competition in the space. Not that Apple and Google did anything wrong. The CMA says the designation was not a finding of wrongdoing. Rather, they say it lets regulators consider proportionate, targeted interventions to ensure that mobile platforms are open to effective competition and that consumers and businesses that rely on Google and Apple can have confidence that they are treated fairly. Responding to the news, Apple issued a statement saying that it faces fierce competition in every market where it operates, and it works tirelessly to create the best products, services, and user experience. The UK's adoption of EU-style rules would undermine that, leaving users with weaker privacy and security, delayed access to new features, and a fragmented, less seamless experience. We've seen the impact of regulation on Apple users in the EU, says Apple, and we urge the UK not to follow the same path. Speaking of which, Apple said midweek last week that it might have to drop app tracking transparency in the European Union. For those who don't remember, MacRumors says app tracking transparency is a feature that lets iPhone and iPad users decide whether to allow apps to track their activity across other apps and websites for advertising purposes. Users can choose to allow apps to ask for permission or turn off tracking entirely. And we apparently cannot have that. MacRumors cites a report from DPA International that had Apple saying intense lobbying efforts in Germany, Italy, and other countries in Europe may force it to withdraw this feature to the detriment of European consumers. It seems odd that an EU country would want to allow app tracking. In fact, they probably don't, though they do seem to have a trust issue. Earlier this year, the piece says Germany's Federal Cartel Office preliminarily ruled that Apple abused its market power with app tracking transparency, giving itself preferential treatment, even though Apple says it does not collect data from third-party apps. The cartel said that Apple's restrictions made it far more difficult for app publishers to access user data relevant for advertising. Apple says it's tried to come up with solutions that will both appease regulators and keep app tracking transparency in place, though it worries that that is not possible. In the meantime, the company says it will continue to urge the relevant authorities in Germany, Italy, and across Europe to allow Apple to continue providing this important privacy feature to its users. And finally today, I gotta tell you about something amazing that happened this weekend. I went camping. That's not the amazing part. It was up in the mountains, hotter than Hades in the daytime, freezing, though thankfully not literally, at night. There was an observatory nearby, so no light pollution. Sits on several hundred acres owned by a university and is surrounded by federal parkland, which is where we camped. You know those pictures people take of the night sky where you see galaxies and gradations of our galaxy and more stars than you can count? Yeah, I finally figured out how to take those with the help of an article in Apple Gazette. And it was amazing. One of the pictures in particular was incredible. We'd gone to try to catch the meteor shower that's happening now. Well, actually, it peaked last week, though we caught the tail end of it. One of the pictures I took actually caught a couple of shooting stars. I'm not bragging. Pretty much all I did was look up how to do it, then didn't touch my phone for 30 seconds while it did its thing. But if your phone is mostly for doom scrolling, as mine often is, it was truly amazing to let it capture the cosmos instead. The picture's up on Mastodon for anybody who wants to see it. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by NordLayer. Save 10% with coupon code macOSKen-10 at nordlayer.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOSKen at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macOSKen.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.